This is Grief and Grit, from heartache to high fives with a dash of sass. The podcast that turns the tables on traditional grief talks with a fresh, sassy spin. Listen in for candid conversations about the messy, awkward, and downright hilarious aspects of dealing with loss. Because sometimes the best way to cope is with a little laughter and a lot of grit.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How was the weekend?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Busy, I bet, with school going back today.
Yes, we are in full end of summer transitioning to school mode. So it's always a lot.
I know. And for those of you who are not in the South, we start school really, really early when it's still like 95 degrees out there. We ship our children back to school. I know that it used to be a thing to start school after Labor Day, but this seems to be the trend in the South, and I guess so far we've all survived.
Yeah.
But I guess being back at school today is a good segue into us, what we're going to be talking about.
That's right.
Milestones and surviving that first year, which is not always very daunting, not always easy.
Right. And when you're in it, it feels impossible, but it's possible and you can do it and you will do it. But I know it feels impossible.
It does feel impossible. And yet here we are. We get through it. We get through it. And of course, those firsts are always really difficult. And for me, I know that I have just gone through the 16th anniversary of Mark's death.
Wow.
Which seems crazy to me that we have lived a whole life without him. And I know for you, Greer, you've just gone through what would have been Jared's 44th birthday.
Yeah.
So
which is very bizarre. In May, it was the 3rd anniversary, and then in July, it would have been his 44th birthday. So crazy. Yeah, it really is another birthday, another milestone without him. It does get easier as the years go on. You know, we've started to put our traditions in place, and I think so much of that first year is the anticipatory fears, anxiety that comes into play because we don't know how we're going to feel or respond to the loss on that day.
Exactly.
And it's really hard, but that fear and the anxiety definitely dissipates as time goes on. Time does not heal all wounds, but it helps.
It does help. It does help. And I also think, and this was so relevant for me, that we do anticipate these things. And then sometimes when we have got to, like Mark's birthday or our wedding anniversary or the anniversary of his death, sometimes I don't feel what I expected to feel. And it took me a while to come to terms with that and say, okay, that's okay. Like, I don't necessarily have to have such a bad day on his birthday. I can have a bad day 2 weeks later or a day before. So I think it's important to know as well that we anticipate feeling these feelings on a certain day. And it's almost like that pressure that you have to wake up and feel sad and feel depressed, lonely, missing. And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's just a regular day with a gentle reminder.
Exactly. And to that point, so often your body knows that something is coming up. I mean, there have been times where I have just been in a funk and I'm like, what is going on? And I'll realize, oh, it's the beginning of July. We're getting close to Jared's birthday. Or, oh, you know, it's the holidays, it's Christmas, and we're getting really close to our anniversary.
Right.
So, you know, my body senses the longing and the missing him.
Right.
On when those milestones are about to occur. And it might last a week. It might not happen at all.
Correct.
It's so
Exactly.
random.
It is so random.
Yeah. And that I think makes it harder because then when we do feel it, especially after maybe not feeling it for a little bit, it's like, oh God, am I regressing? Am I going
Ye-
backwards?
Yes.
And the answer
Yes.
is no, it's grief.
Exactly.
It's grief.
It's grief. And grief there's like no, and it's sometimes you feel guilty if you don't feel sad about something. And
Mhm.
I particularly remember it was I don't even know how many years after Mark had died. And I was driving home from somewhere and I was stopped at a red light. And I remember thinking to myself, I haven't thought of Mark the whole day.
Aw.
And for me, that was, oh my God, does that mean I'm forgetting him? Does that mean that I'm over this? Like, what does it mean? And it got me I was frantic about it.
Aw.
But then I just realized that time does do that,
Mhm.
and we don't have to feel guilty for any of the feelings that we're feeling.
Right.
There's no guilt. And I think society has done that a lot to us by
Mhm.
making us have these expectations, by having expectations of us.
Mhm.
And we have to learn to normalize it. And as we say, this is what we're all about. We, two widows, normalizing grief.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And the way that we might feel is different from the way that others might feel in regards to those milestones, anniversaries, especially in the first year.
correct.
Again, people grieve differently. And, yes, we're 3 years out. And I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, but I was talking to Jared's parents. We always get together on his birthday. And for me, Jared's birthday is more celebratory. It's celebrating the life that he lived versus the day that he died. That anniversary is more somber.
Right.
But for them, his birthday is a really, really hard day. And I completely, I can't understand because I'm not the parent, but at the same time I can. We have different relationships with those that we've lost.
Exactly.
And, the way that we feel and want to honor different days or to observe different days, that's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm with you. I always said, Mark's parents get his birthday 1000%,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's the hardest day.
Yeah.
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 So just a little bit about, for everyone listening, a little bit about how I survived the first year, what the milestones were then, what the milestones look like now, because of course everything changes, our lives evolve. So going to the first year, Mark died in the summer of July 2008. And I remember it was about a week or 2 weeks after he had passed away. We had friends we were living in New York at the time, and we had friends who, they had a home on Fire Island, which is a gorgeous, like, beach resort that you get by ferry, and there are no cars, and it's very calming. And this friend called and said, we have a house, we would love you to use it. So I said, okay. I had these 4 small children, and I was like, great, we're going on vacation. Well, we packed them up and we got on that ferry and we arrived at this island. And I realized that I had probably made the biggest mistake of my life, because this was not where I wanted to be. I did not want to be in this happy beach town, everybody enjoying themselves, going to the beach. It was extremely hot. And as wonderful as it was, and this friend was so kind and so caring, I was more than fragile at this point. I was still in this fog, like, wow, this
Of
was my
course.
life. What was going to happen?
Right.
My kids were fragile. Everybody was fragile. And here we were supposedly on vacation, and Mark had been gone 3 whole weeks. So, as we say, that everybody's different.
Yeah.
But my advice would be do not go on vacation with children as soon as I did. And of course, I was trying to wrangle these children. I was the first time as an only parent, and no, not advisable at all. We came back from that, and I remember my kids went to a camp in New York. They had gone to this day, it was just a day camp, not a sleepaway camp, and they had gone the previous year. And this camp was absolutely wonderful. So they would go in the morning, they would be picked up by a yellow bus, and they would go in the morning and they would come home, I think like 4 o'clock. And it was nice. It was good for them. My girls were 4 at the time, so it was good for them to get out of the house. And the biggest bonus of that was that they actually taught Ariella and Hannah to swim.
Amazing.
So that was taken off my to-do list.
That's a big relief.
It's a big relief.
Yeah.
Because swimming 2 at the same time was, what was I going to do?
Right.
So that was great. And having them go to camp gave us a little bit of that routine, a little bit of kind of normalcy within this chaotic, crazy time. The September of that year was the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and I decided to come to family who live in Atlanta, where I now live, and that was really hard. You know, those first holidays, be it Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever, whatever it is that you celebrate, those are probably the toughest because those have so much meaning on a spiritual level, and it's a family time, and it's where everybody's always been together, and it's so apparent that there's this person missing,
Yeah.
And so I came to Atlanta and was staying with my sister-in-law at the time, and sitting at the table, I remember that I just burst into tears. It was too much. And there again, I think that if you can have the safety of your own home, there really is something about being at home in your own environment.
It's a safe space.
It's a safe
It's the
space.
space you create. So ideally, it's a safe space.
It's comforting. So again, I think that was probably not the best idea. But then again, if I think back, I know my reasoning was, would it have been worse just to be at home with me and the kids and no Mark?
Right.
This way the kids had a distraction. So I think I wouldn't say no to it, but it's definitely difficult.
It's hard. Hindsight's always 2020.
Correct.
But in that moment, you did what you thought was best.
Yeah. And I think that, if you live in the same town, that's a different thing.
Right.
But I flew from New York to Atlanta, so that, that made it more difficult.
Right. And with 4 kids.
And with 4 kids.
I mean, that's not easy in itself.
Correct. And
Right.
this was like, 2 months after Mark had died? Not much more after that. So the
Right.
grief was very raw. The pain was still extremely raw. Let me think. Brings us to November, which is when Mark's birthday. His birthday is in November, and that's where I was saying earlier, I anticipated so much on that day. Like my stomach was in a knot. I anticipated so much happening on that day that he wasn't here to celebrate his birthday. And it really wasn't that bad for me. Like it really wasn't. And I think that's when I felt guilty about not feeling so sad and what I did, we went the other way. We never did anything to celebrate his birthday. I think it was me maybe running away from it.
Mm.
I don't know. Birthdays were never his big thing. They were always mine.
I get that.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was like, what am I going to make this big deal of his birthday now? He's not here.
Mhm.
We really didn't want that when he was alive.
Right.
So that was a one milestone that I think we got through fairly okay, because it wasn't a big thing in his life,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel what I thought I was going to feel.
Mhm.
So again, for all of you listening, it's fine to just feel what you need to feel and do what you need to do. If it is celebrating that person, if it is throwing a huge birthday bash, that's okay.
Right.
It's whatever makes you okay.
Mhm.
Thanksgiving that first year, we decided to run away and not face it
Mhm.
because Mark had been diagnosed the year before on Thanksgiving Day.
Mm.
And so that was a horrible time.
Right.
And I just decided I didn't want to be around. I
Mhm.
didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to go to people. I just needed it to be us. So I would pack up the kids and we went to all sorts of different places. The first place we went to was actually in Connecticut, where Julia Roberts, she filmed Mystic Pizza. And that was really cool. So that was our first Thanksgiving, and then we went to somewhere else, our second Thanksgiving. And when I moved back to Atlanta, I actually did. I brought Thanksgiving back.
Mm.
And we now love Thanksgiving. It's our
Nice.
favorite holiday. We've always kept it just us.
Mhm.
We don't have friends. We don't have extended family. It's just our unit.
Mhm.
And Ariella, my one twin, she loves it. She loves it. She cooks. She organizes.
That's
So
amazing.
Thanksgiving become a great holiday for us.
Yeah.
We do. We love it.
Oh.
So that was one kind of yucky milestone that we turned into a really positive one for all of us.
I love that.
Yeah. And then our first birthday without Mark was Saul's birthday.
Okay.
He turned 10.
Mm. That's a big birthday.
That was a big birthday,
Yeah.
double digits.
Yeah.
That was hard. That I felt.
Mhm.
I definitely felt that. I felt him not being here. But we got through it, and I love birthdays. So throwing big birthdays and big things is my thing to do. So that's what we did. And then, Greer, I've got a story to tell you.
Okay, I'm
and
ready.
everybody.
Okay.
The twins' 5th birthday is in December.
Okay.
And as I said, I throw these huge bashes and nothing was going to change that. So I got a magician and we had the birthday party and we invited all these little children. And now the magician knew nothing about our family. All he knew was that I booked him to come and entertain the children for an hour. So we all sitting and the kids are, engrossed in what this magician has to say and do. And the magician draws a picture of a man, right?
Okay.
And he says to the children, and he starts, I can't remember if he was wiping away, but part of the man started to disappear.
Mm.
That was part of the magic trick.
Okay.
And he says to the children, he says, okay, everybody, start saying, bye, Mark.
Oh my
Bye,
goodness.
Mark. Now he knew, I know, I see your face, and I know everyone was like,
I have chills.
I know. Everybody no one could believe that this man was saying, bye, Mark. And I was like, oh my gosh, if only he knew what he was just saying.
Wow.
But for me, that was just a sign that Mark was there and he
Mhm.
was with us celebrating this birthday. But we remembered that forever. When this magician was like, and friends who were there were do we laugh? Do we cry?
Right.
What do we do with this?
Right.
It was really incredible.
Wow.
It was incredible.
That's-
So,
I'm speechless.
so that was really, really crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And then, of course, my big move came between 2008 and 2009.
Okay.
And that came in the December of 2008. I was outside and I was shoveling snow. For all of you
I
who
cannot imagine.
no,
Not down here in Atlanta.
No, definitely not in Atlanta, and shouldn't be anywhere in the whole world, but it is. And I was shoveling snow, and I thought to myself, you know what? I didn't sign up to be a widow. I didn't ask for this, but that's how it is, and that was my plan. But I do have a choice in not shoveling snow anymore. And I went inside and I made the decision to move back to Atlanta.
I cannot blame you.
Yeah. And that was, it was a hard decision.
Yeah.
Because Mark is buried up in New York and we have an incredible support system in New York and still friends who are like family.
Yeah.
But I have that same support system here in Atlanta with friends who are family and family. And I think for the kids, it was just a really good way to come back. But it was a hard one. It was a very, very hard one. And I just, we got through them.
You did?
We got through the following year. I got through my birthday. I got through Bianca's birthday. She turned 13.
Wow.
So
many big birthdays that year.
So many big birthdays.
I mean,
So yeah.
wow.
Yeah, a lot of big birthdays, anniversaries, a lot of things happen in that year.
Right.
Moving from New York back to Atlanta, getting reacclimated to here, getting the kids settled in school.
There's significant transitions. I mean, those are massive changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our first year of change and milestones was huge. And we, thank goodness, we continue to have the milestones. I just celebrated getting Bianca married.
You did.
In December, and that was amazing. And I did anticipate the sadness, and that was the one time the sadness did come because I really wanted Mark here with us, and she wanted Mark to walk her down the aisle, but it was beautiful. It was just a beautiful, beautiful celebration. And I know there are going to be many, many more milestones, and I think he's not going to be here for any of them. But the same as we got through the first ones, and I really believe he's, the essence of the people that we lose is still with us.
Yes.
It's still ingrained in who we are. It's still, for those of you who believe that there is a life after death and we go to a different realm, there's that too. And, I look back now 16 years later and I'm like, oh,
yes.
We made it. We made it, and we have survived and we've thrived.
Exactly.
And, so for those of you who are just entering this new world, this new life, you just have to trust. You have to trust the journey, and you have to trust that it's going to be okay, and you will get through all these things.
Yes, without a doubt. And one question I do have for you, Simonie, is so often people give the advice of you should never make any big life changes or decisions within the first year. So did anyone tell you, like with the move, was there anyone who said, are you sure?
Oh, of course. So yeah. So, and that's me. I am, and of course you shouldn't. I mean, the cardinal rule is you really shouldn't make any major decisions, especially in that first year. But I am such an impulsive person, and I run so much on my intuition. And I just knew, I also planned it because the girls were starting kindergarten. Bianca
Yeah.
was going to her last year of middle school and, then on to high school. So I wanted her to kind of get into the groove in Atlanta and meet people. So there
Mhm.
was that part of it. But yeah, there were people who said, just take it easy because that's a
Right.
huge move.
It is.
But it's okay.
Right.
And, sometimes it's okay just to jump in. And if your intuition says do this and it's what you
Mhm.
want to do, that's okay.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
they're guidelines to grief. They're
yes.
guidelines, but they're not rules.
Yes, for
So,
sure. And I feel like so many people who might have the advice or, or remind us that we shouldn't make those changes. At the end of the day, I feel like that's what that first year is all about. Everything is new and different and a
exactly.
change. You're
Right.
adapting. So I just, yeah, I wasn't sure if you got that feedback. So
I
I
did.
wanted to,
I did
yeah,
get pushback from some people,
yeah.
but I think
It
most
was the right
people,
decision though.
it was really the right
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. You have
And
to trust your
you
intuition
really
and
do.
yeah.
And you have to do what you feel is right for you.
Mhm.
And, that's part of I'm 16 years down the line and I still have moments where, should I be doing this? Should I be? And I just trust and I do what's right for me, what's
Mhm.
right for me, what's right for my family. And I think for everyone out there, that's the important thing.
Right.
Don't listen to do what's right for you. What's
Yes.
going to benefit you the most?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing how you survived and thrived that first year. I know
absolutely.
it's again it feels impossible, but you did it and now you're 16 years out and the next episode we're going to continue this theme of milestones and firsts and we'll run through what I did and then the two of us will give some extra advice for
Yeah.
those of you who have not yet hit all of the firsts. So,
Okay,
yeah.
great. So hang in there, everybody. Have a
Yes.
beautiful day, and we'll be back with more.
We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening. If you love what you heard, please follow Grief and Grit and share our podcast with your friends and family.